Hello, my name is Julian Cargiatis, and this is going to be my response to the week 4 reflection. So, in response to the question of how technology, scientific innovation, and globalization connected in the history of food and famine during the 20th century, I would say that they affected the history of food and famine really greatly. And a lot of the scientific innovations that were made during the Green Revolution were incredibly influential in many parts of the world. So, the first example I wanted to bring up that kind of ties all three aspects together technology, scientific innovation, and globalization was crossbreeding. And so, the crossbreeding of plant species really made it easier to sort of dial in what kind of plants and what kind of aspects of certain plants grew best in certain places. So they were kind of able to pick a place and engineer seeds that would grow in the ideal conditions there. And so the quote I took from the book, Pilcher wrote, they discovered that seeds accommodated to the U.S. Fared poorly in Mexican soil. And then he goes on to write, researchers solved the problem by crossing Mexican varieties with Japanese dwarf wheat. And then by the 1960s, Mexican maize harvests had tripled. I think this is a great example of how crossbreeding kind of really mitigated famine in a place like Mexico. And that was a great example of scientific innovation and technology being able to do that. And another example of technology I wanted to bring up that was influential in a lot of different parts of the world was irrigation technology, which obviously makes farming a lot easier, especially in a lot of underdeveloped countries. And then globalization also did a lot of good in many places in the 20th century. And I took an example from the last article we had to read, Hunger is Not Eradicated. And in that, Andrew Carlson writes that in Asia, the prevalence of undernourishment, POU, fell from 13.9% in 2005 to 8% in 2015. In Latin America and the Caribbean, it declined from 9.3% to 5.8%. And then in Africa, the POU declined from 20.7 to 15.8%. And I really think that these numbers are kind of a good example of showing how much we were able to decrease the malnourishment problem across the world, and how really if the whole world comes together and focuses on something like that, we can at least mitigate the problem to an extent. And although the difference was really great in Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean, uh, the the numbers of Africa going from 20.7 to 15.8% are a little bit deceptive. Uh, Obviously, a lot of progress was made in a lot of different parts of Africa, but there's definitely was still a lot of work to do, and all of these methods didn't really work in places like East and Central or East and Middle Africa. Uh, so although all of these innovations are really good, we still need to keep working as a whole to solve these problems in a lot of different areas. And hopefully, through technology, scientific innovation, and globalization, we can continue to decrease the amount of malnourishment across the world and really get rid of uh, hunger as a problem and as a whole. Thank you.